The Phillies had a rough night at the plate, losing to the Nationals, but they might have found their solution, at least temporarily, to the Andrew Painter problem. We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. I'm going to tell you the latest of what we're hearing about potential trade targets for the Phillies. I know we still got over a month till the deadline, but hey, it's never too early to see if there's a right-handed bat or maybe a couple of pitchers out there. What's the latest in the rumor mill? We'll get into that. We also have the latest All-Star voting in the National League and some Phillies. Well, the team's going to be well represented one way or another at the All-Star game here in Philadelphia, as they should be. But are every player deserving? Is every player deserving, I should say, that's getting the votes? But first, we're going to talk about last night's game in Washington. Not a lot to say about the offense, at least not anything good. It was nice to see Brandon Marsh go yard, and that was the Phillies' only run of the game. Foster Griffin absolutely dominated them. The Phils struck out a total of 12 times. 9 of those were against Foster Griffin. He's a lefty. It's why we're going to be talking about right-handed bats at the trade deadline talk part of this the episode. Like, it's very obvious what this team's weak spot is. High-level lefties cause problems. And Foster Griffin is having a nice year. He's not even the highest level of lefties that you're going to see. So still a clear deficiency with this team at the plate. But they just scored 15 on the Mets 2 games ago. They scored 6 in the series finale. I mean, they're going to be what they are offensively for this time right now. There's nothing really new there. And I'm not overreacting to one game where they score 1 run, strike out a bunch. It happens to every team in baseball. It's just, we know the flaws of this Phillies offense. Well documented. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Now, I think, honestly, the biggest takeaway from last night's game is a positive, which you score 1 run, you lose to a divisional team, the game's rain delayed 2 hours, and you're sitting here telling me the positive is going to come from the Phillies side of the equation? Yes, I am actually. And it's because the 5th spot in the rotation has been in flux for weeks now. Andrew Painter struggled mightily for like a month and change before the Phillies finally decided to send him down to AAA. They didn't have a corresponding move ready right away because, well, frankly, they're still trying to figure out how to piecemeal together the back end of the rotation. And Alan Rangel was the guy that everybody assumed was going to be the next man up. Now, he had just pitched at AAA the day that Andrew Painter was sent down, so they had to wait a little bit since the spot wasn't up in the rotation till yesterday. They didn't need him over the weekend, but he got the opportunity to throw the bulk of the innings yesterday. Used Tim Mesa as an opener, which, I mean, it's not ideal to use an opener. More on that in a second. But then they go to Rangel, and he throws 5 innings, 1 earned, strikes out 4, doesn't walk anybody, ball in the strike zone, competitive pitching. What we saw from him is better than anything we've seen from Andrew Painter in the last month that he was at the major league level. Now, does that mean problem solved? Rangel starts every 5th day. He's your rotation guy until Painter comes back. I don't think it's that simple, because clearly the Phils are still a little bit sketched out about the idea. Otherwise, they would have just started him as a normal starting pitcher. But they must see him as more matchup based, which is why they went with the lefty to combat the lefties at the top of the lineup for the Nationals in Tim Mesa. Will they continue to use Mesa? Maybe. Will they go to somebody else, like maybe a Kyle Backus, who was just brought back up from his injured list stint yesterday? They could. It seems like if you're going to see a righty-heavy team, Alan Rangel would just start as usual. But if you're seeing a lefty-heavy team, then you might see a left-handed opener. And Don Mattingly has said that he does not like doing the opener strategy. I'll tell you, I don't like the opener strategy, because it feels like it sets up to burn the bullpen more. You're not giving a chance. Let's just live in a dream world here. Alan Rangel goes out one day and he gives you 6 strong innings. And then you can just go 7th, 8th, and 9th. Perfect. right? You can survive with that. You can win those ball games, especially if the Phillies offense is having one of their good days. I know they feel super bipolar. They are going to have good days as well on the offensive side. But when you go with the opener, you're automatically just opening up the bullpen. And then, sure, Rangel will give you something, but you've already burned one arm. You're probably going to have to burn 2 or 3 more. If he blows up in like the first inning or 2 that he throws, well, then you're just turning it into a bullpen day, which if he started and you did that, you'd have to anyway. It just feels like unnecessary stress on a bullpen that isn't really settled right now. If you had 5 or 6 arms you could throw out there any given day, yeah, go with the opener for sure. Heck, throw a bullpen game and just have Rangel be like a long relief guy. But the Phillies don't have that luxury with Brad Keller on the injured list, Jose Alvarado having a really bad year, Tanner Banks not being where they wanted to be, and the whole rotation of like Meza and Bolin and Sugar and Backus and these guys that you're trying to fit into the bullpen setup some way or another. They don't really lend the level of confidence that you would like to be able to say, hey, we're going to get through the first inning clean. We know also with this Phillies team, they can be front runners, meaning if they get out early, well, they feel really good about their chances. If they get down right off the rip, well, that can lead to pressing at the plate, which is already something they're prone to with how free swinging a lot of guys on this team are. So I don't think the opener is the strategy that sets this offense up for success, this bullpen up for success, or really this team up for success. Now, I saw enough from Rangel to start him next game, regardless of handedness. If it was me, if I was making the call for the Philadelphia Phillies, who starts in 4 games from now? Tonight, Luzardo goes against Zach Littell. So you get back to your normal run-of-the-mill rotation, which is good for the Phillies because when they're at those spots, normally means they're going to win pretty consistently. That's why their record is what it is in large part, is because the starting pitching at the top has been just that good. But when you go with the next spot that Andrew Painter would have pitched, which is now technically unoccupied because Rangel did not start in last night's game, I would give him the ball as a starting pitcher. We'll try it out. Throw the kid into the deep water. He had a strong appearance against the Cubs earlier this year. He had a strong appearance last night against the Nationals, who are on average scoring more runs per game than any other team in baseball. I know that might be hard to believe because it's the Nationals, but it's a powerful offense. They find runs. They were only able to find 1 across 5 innings of work against Rangel last night. That's a good enough positive to say, hey, we can start him. What's the worst thing that happens? You get an Andrew Painter quality start from the Andrew Painter spot in the rotation. That just brings you back to right where you are. And it also feels a lot more natural. Like when you go with the opener, there's got to be a feel in the clubhouse of like, okay, this is not your typical day. This is not your typical pitching process. We don't like to do this. The manager said as much. We haven't done this much over the past 4 or 5 years because, well, the rotation has been really healthy, knock on wood, and really good. So sometimes when you send that message to your team, like, yeah, we're going with the opener today, we're doing stuff not in our typical fashion, it can take guys out of their element. Baseball players are finicky. You might look at that and say, oh, mentally soft, this team. You should be able to play in any environment, anytime. Sure, ideally, they're robots who never get out and never have a second thought about how they're going about their day. But that's not how people work. That's not how baseball players work. Routine is very important. The way other players on the team go about their routine can affect the rest of the clubhouse. And the way the team handles certain decisions like this can affect the way that guys are mentally heading into games. I think it would seem much simpler and a vote of confidence if you just allowed Alan Rangel to start at least the next game. And this is not Andrew Painter where it's like, yeah, he's got 2 weeks to show me something. Like, no, this is case by case basis. Now, if anyone thinks Seth Johnson's going to be the answer, he gave up 2 runs in relief last night and did not look good. And he was part of the reason that the Phillies did not stay in that game. Now, I don't know that they would have scored if they hadn't given up those 2 runs, but you'd never want to have a guy coming out of the pen that's putting you in trouble, whether you're up, down, or tied in the ball game. So Alan Rangel is the only option that makes sense right now as a guy that could actually start for this team. And I think he's shown you enough through 2 appearances that you can hand him the ball. And if it doesn't go well, you lose. Guess what? You lost last night with the opener. You lost the last game that Andrew Painter started. You lost the game before that at that spot in the rotation. It's not ideal where you're just like, hey, we've been losing anyway, so try anything. Like, you want to try something that works and that you have faith in. But I think you saw enough last night to say we can give him the ball. And then you reevaluate after that. You may have to get a month out of whatever the structure is going to be, though. And the opener or bullpen game doesn't seem sustainable to me for that long. So you kind of got to will Rangel into that spot. And he hasn't shown you anything that says, hey, we can't do it. Like, it's impossible. He's not getting shelled. He looks comfortable out there. He looks more comfortable than Andrew Painter did. I'm not saying anything about Painter long-term or Alan Rangel long-term. I'm just looking at what is best for the Phillies right now. And I think it's giving him the ball to start in actual starter capacity. I don't think anyone wanted to, in late June, have Alan Rangel in the rotation throwing every 5 days for this team. But there's not a lot of organizational depth. They are where they are. And I think that is the best move they can make. Now, if you're hearing me say these names like Seth Johnson and Alan Rangel and Kyle Backus and John Bolin and Chase Sugar, you might be like, man, who are these guys? Does this team have enough talent on it to compete? Well, All-Star voting would tell you they have some of the most talent in the National League. Even a couple of guys that I don't fully believe are deserving of where they are in good spots. Now, remember, this is fan voting, so take it with a grain of salt. But we'll tell you as we continue today's episode where the Phillies are ranking out in the All-Star voting on today's episode of Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Let's talk about 5-hour energy first, because if you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. And that's why cotton candy 5-hour energy shots bring back that nostalgic flavor in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy taste you remember, but it's got the tasty caffeine boost and 0 sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. You get the energy. You get the sweet treat fix. It doesn't crush your like summer diet or anything like that. You don't have to carry around anything crazy. It's just a small bottle that helps you make it through the day. And the flavor is awesome too. That's just another great reason. Like, who doesn't love cotton candy? Doesn't it make you think of what, like the circus or the ballpark? It's fun memories, right? No one has a bad time eating cotton candy, but you can't get away with that every day as an adult. You're not the kid you see on TV that's got the cotton candy all over his face when they cut to him in between innings. No, this is much more convenient. It's much easier to fit in your diet. It gives you the energy you need to make it through the day. I love this flavor by them, and they always do a great job of making the flavors taste just like they're supposed to. So bring on the sweetness with cotton candy 5-hour energy shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Let's also talk about our friends over at Hims, because, guys, ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. Hims offer a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to have any awkward appointments. You don't have to get in line at a pharmacy. It's just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and Hims makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Why would you want to go through the uncomfortable process where you got to go talk to somebody face to face? Other people might see you out at the doctor's office. God forbid you run into somebody you know and they're asking you all kinds of questions. You don't need people in your personal life. You need your personal life as private, but as easy to maximize as possible. And that's what Hims can do for you. So to get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED or hair loss or weight loss and even more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Locked On MLB. Prescription required. See website for details, important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. Hims is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. So go ahead and check out our friends over at Hims. Let's talk about the Everydayer Club, because what are you doing if you haven't checked it out yet? You got a free trial opportunity, and it's going to give you something that I know everybody needs. We all got a busy schedule, so you're going to want to get your daily Phillies coverage, completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. It's nothing to sneeze at. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get close to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonphillies.supercast.com to claim your free trial. We have the second update for the All-Star voting in the National League, and the Phillies, once again, well represented. Now, of course, the guy that everyone's going to want to hear about is our dude, Brandon Marsh. And I've been fighting for him tooth and nail to be an all-star starter. That's my guy. So let's start with the outfielders. Brandon Marsh was third in all-star voting among National League outfielders last time we checked in. It has gone up. He has now eclipsed Ronald Acuña Jr., who's been a little bit banged up lately. And Marsh, with 1.25 million votes, is the second highest vote receiver in the National League All-Star voting, just behind Andy Pages of the Dodgers, who's had an incredible year for them. Like they needed another guy to have a breakout year. But Marsh is in the picture. He's firmly in the gray area, which shows you, like normally gray area would be bad, but gray area on this graphic I'm looking at are the highlighted players who would advance to the second round of voting if things held the way that they are. So keep getting your votes in for Brandon Marsh. He fully deserves it. He's still in prime position for that. Let's go to catchers now. We'll work top to bottom on this graphic I'm looking at. So catchers first, second, third, short, and DH. Remember, you cannot vote for pitchers via the fan vote, just the position players. JT Realmuto, funny enough, he's in third place in the National League catcher voting behind Will Smith of the Dodgers and Drake Baldwin of the Braves, who's number one in the catcher voting right now. JT, does he feel like the third best catcher in the National League to you? To me, he doesn't. Maybe that's too focused on the offense and not enough on the defense, but you're going to see some more of this as we continue to go through. Very interesting conversation that we're going to build off of the All-Star voting. So JT's third. Probably doesn't deserve to be third. Hey, I'm not pocket watching. You're going to be an All-Star, you can be an All-Star. Like if the fans are going to vote for you, I love the Phillies, more power to you. Bryce Harper, third, behind Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman in the first baseman voting. He deserves to be an All-Star. He's having an All-Star caliber season. I got no issue with that. Second baseman, top two move on to the second round of voting. Ozzie Albies is in first with the Atlanta Braves. Bryson Stott of the Philadelphia Phillies is in second. He's ahead of Bryce Terang and Luis Ariz and Ketel Marte and guys like that. What? I don't know what has gotten into Phillies fans or how much you guys are voting. Maybe so many people are like voting for Brandon Marsh that they're just like, hey, I'm also going to throw in every other Phillies player on this ballot. But Stott being second is wild. Like, again, no disrespect to any of these guys I say are not deserving of where they're at via the fan vote, but Stott doesn't feel like a top two second baseman in the National League. Like he was being platooned and still kind of is. That's not exactly all-star to me. But hey, if he makes his first all-star team, again, more power to him. Third base, more of the same. Max Muncy is in first for the Dodgers. Alec Bohm in second, ahead of guys like Austin Riley and Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado and Alex Bregman. Now, this one's a little bit more understandable than Stott. Not that Bohm's having a all-star caliber year, and he's on a hot stretch right now. That's great to see. But the status of third baseman in the National League, it is not good. Like, nobody's having a good year outside of Max Muncy. So I guess Bohm is having the best of the lesser years, or maybe Phillies fans are just going crazy voting for their guys. Trey Turner is fourth among National League shortstops Kyle Schwarber is second among designated hitters. So in all of those, there's not a single Philly that's any lower than fourth. And that's where Trey Turner's at. And people have been talking about him being like unplayable and like terrible contract. He made a bad error again last night. The batting average, the numbers, they're all significantly down from last year. It's insane to me what we're seeing. And it begs the question. So again, at every position, the Phillies have some guys in the mix to be voted at least till the next round of the voting process for the fan votes for the All-Star team. I'd imagine all of those votes are coming from Phillies fans, or like most of them are coming from Phillies fans. And yet all I see on social media, all I hear over at the radio station when I'm talking to listeners or reading our text line over at 97.5 The Fanatic is how, well, this team stinks and they ran it back and they're not good enough and the roster's built poorly and Dave Dombrowski's a moron. And then you look at this and Phillies fans are going crazy supporting their guys. There is one catch-all explanation that bridges the gap between what I'm seeing and hearing from a fan base that is very much at odds with how they feel about this team and, hey, nobody lower than fourth in any of these voting spots in the National League All-Star picture is the fact that the game is in Philadelphia. I think there may just be something to that where maybe opposing fans are saying, hey, if I don't know, I might just vote Phillies to give them the respect of the game being in Philadelphia. More Phillies fans might be willing to vote because they know the game is here and they have tickets and they want to see their guys in the All-Star game. I would say that that has a significant amount to do with it. But it's funny to me how I can hear day in and day out, we don't like this team, they're not good enough. And then see that type of response from the fan base when they have the opportunity to vote these guys as all-stars. I don't know. Maybe I'm hearing a vocal minority. Maybe I'm hearing half of the fan base and it's just the louder half. But it feels counterintuitive to what I've heard from the fan base about this team. So let me know in the comments, are you voting for the Phillies as all-stars? Do you have a better explanation than just the game is in Philadelphia? Because it feels weird to me. I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm not saying don't do it. Like, if you can vote your guys into the All-Star game, vote them into the All-Star game. Every fan base would if they could. But I don't understand how we have the thoughts we do day to day about this team, but then you vote like crazy in the actual polls to get these guys to the All-Star game. Make up your mind, Philadelphia. Do you like this baseball team or not? Do you think they're good or not? But I don't know what to make of them. So maybe that's not a fair thing to ask you. But they do have some talented players. So if you think the roster stinks, that's kind of the number one example of what I'll point to right now is where these guys stand in the All-Star fan voting. Coming up, we're going to talk about maybe new Phillies. Who could the Phillies look at the trade deadline? What are we hearing about names that are potentially out there, positions they're targeting, and are things starting to shift? Well, maybe not yet, but they always could with a very volatile setup for the trade deadline market this year. We'll tell you all about it as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about our friends over at Odoo, because running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting and another for inventory and another for sales. And somehow, some way, none of them ever talk to each other, right? It seems like silly that they wouldn't be able to. Doesn't that seem natural? Well, you'd be surprised how many businesses don't have it together, maybe yours. And that's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. It helps your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. You see it in sports all the time, right? The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. The most talented team doesn't always win. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. It's true in sports, it's true in business, and that's why Odoo is so important. And one thing that really stands out is just how Odoo can get your business all moving in the same way. Everyone's worked at a place where like departments don't communicate well enough, or you're sending 50 emails to try and figure out who needs what from you. Odoo can help you with all of this because great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. You can try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Go ahead and check them out. So this is going to be just like a stream of consciousness. What have we been hearing about the trade deadline? Because there's a lot of murky water still. The number one point I want you to take away from this is that things change quickly and the market is always shifting. Right now, we're sitting here on June 23rd. We got over a month until the trade deadline. And with that comes uncertainty about who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers, who's just going to kind of hang out in purgatory and mess up their organization and take guys off the market for other organizations. We do not know this yet. Now, could the Phillies be aggressive early in the trade deadline market, or maybe even ahead of the trade deadline market? They could be. The one indicator of how they would handle that is going to be how they look at the fifth spot in the rotation. Because Andrew Painter is going to need some time at AAA to settle his stuff, if he even can do that. Best case scenario, he's probably not up here for another 2 to 3 weeks. And even then, that feels like a quick timeline, an aggressive timeline. So if Alan Rangel can go out there and he can look comfortable in that spot, well, then you probably don't have to do anything. If he goes out and starts and gets blown up, or if they keep going with the opener because they tell you they don't trust him, they could make an early move for a veteran starter. Maybe take a look at Kansas City and a Seth Lugo, somebody like that you could potentially try and bring in. A Michael Wacha could be another name that you look at there. You need to find teams that are pretty far out of contention, though, to have them willing to move on from a veteran starter at this point. And that goes back to the initial point of the conversation. Nobody knows what the market's going to be. Not the greatest MLB insider, not some guy on the street at the Wawa. Nobody. Teams will change their strategy left and right. They will lie about their strategy to influence the market. Teams will fool themselves into doing something that everybody else thinks is crazy. For example, if you're looking at the Los Angeles Angels and you say, hey, Jo Adell would be a nice piece for this team. Outfield right-handed bat. He has been linked to the Phillies as one of the names that they have somewhat interest in. The first two names in the outfield I heard were him and Seiya Suzuki of the Cubs, which the Cubs still feel like they could be a playoff team. So why would they sell at this point when they've had some really good stretches of their season? They're trying to compete. I don't know. But the Angels have basically said, nah, we're closed for business, which is insane because their team stinks. Mike Trout's wasting away out there in Anaheim. Jo Adell isn't going to get them any closer to a World Series. They need a lot. That organization has no clue what direction they're heading in right now. It's a shame for that fan base, but it's a shame for other teams too, because they're like, yeah, we don't really think we're going to sell. What do you mean you don't think you're going to sell? You guys stink. All due respect, Los Angeles Angels. Well, why don't you try and get something for these guys to actually rebuild your pipeline? But they don't seem willing to do that. It seems crazy, but also we could hear they could lose 3 games this week or 4 games this week. And then next thing you know, they're saying, you know what? Second thought, these guys are available. And that could happen snip, snap, back and forth between now and the trade deadline, weekly, daily, who knows? And that's just one team. Some of the other names that are out there, Taylor Ward is a name that has popped up. Probably the most likely right-handed bat that would be out there that is a manageable price to pay. When we're talking realistic options, he's probably top of the heap. You could talk about a Mike Trout. He's probably not going anywhere. You could talk about a Byron Buxton. Doesn't sound like he wants to waive his no-trade clause to go anywhere. And so Taylor Ward is probably as big of a name of a right-handed outfield bat as you could be getting. Now, the Giants seem like a team that could be selling. They've basically said they're open for business. Matt Chapman's interesting because even though he plays third base, if you want to retool the infield for a guy that has had in the past significant offensive upside, that's a name that intrigues me. You could look at him. Another team that says, hey, we're interested in potentially selling and looking to get to a point where we can recoup prospects, right? It's not just the Giants that are interested in it, but we talked about the Royals, who have popped up a little bit. And you could do something intriguing with, I don't know, a utility player to try and make the right-handed bat work. Or if you want to go get a veteran starter, like we were talking about Lugo and Waka, like that is something that you can look at. But the tough thing is there are so many teams in the wild card picture. Like even just looking at the National League, I'll just read you the wild card standings real quick so you have an example of what I'm talking about. Right now, the Phillies are in the top wild card spot in the National League. The Cardinals are now in the top after last night's game, wild card spot. The Phillies are a game back on them. Then the Cubs are a game and a half back. And the Padres are in the same spot as the Cubs. And the Nationals are in the same spot as the other two teams. The Marlins are 1 game out. The Pirates are a game and a half out. The Diamondbacks are a game and a half out. Cincinnati Reds are 3 games out. And then you get into the Mets 6 out, Giants 9 out, and the Colorado Rockies at 10 out. Who do the Rockies even really have that you'd be interested in? Maybe Mickey Moniak comes back, huh? How about that? But my point is that a large majority of these teams, and the American League looks very much the same as that, are not far enough out that they're willing to sell. That'll change in the coming weeks for some teams, and some teams will just remain in denial. The other team you want to keep an eye on is a team like Boston, because they're 7 out of the final wild card spot in the American League. They fired their entire coaching staff already. Jared Duran could be available. Aroldis Chapman could be available. That could be a name that you look at for the back end of the bullpen if the Phillies want to make another splash there. So a couple of teams are in the mix of selling already, but not many. And that's why anything you're hearing on the deadline, take with a grain of salt. There's still room for it to shake out, and things will change. But that's essentially what we know right now about the trade deadline and some targets for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, we'll see if they can go win a game tonight in Washington. Jesus Luzardo on the mound, 6:45 p.m. first pitch. Hopefully no rain delay again, because God knows we need our beauty rest. But an opportunity for them to bounce back. And Zach Littell has not been great this year. He's coming in with a 5.45 ERA from the right side as well. They should win tonight's game. It should make you feel better than what you felt watching them strike out 12 times last night. So the day-to-day of the Phillies we will be back to tomorrow. A couple of chances to look into the future, though, with that trade deadline conversation. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the YouTube. That'll help you find our content easier when you do that. It's all free and easy to do. It takes you like a second to do any of that stuff, and it helps us out significantly as well. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that if you have not already. And I'll talk to you tomorrow on our next episode.